the professionals that I encounter, we hear things like, "Oh, I'm the adult in the room," or "Cyber people are the smartest people in the room." You hear it in little ways, like we understand the risk that they don't. They refuse to learn about our problem, right? It's all very us, me, and I think that any strength becomes a weakness if it's overused, and for us, that passion has become a weakness, not a strength.
We are the Keyboard Samurai, a podcast about the business of cyber and tech, here to help you or your business improve. Here's your host, Wil Klu. Let's hack into it now. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Another exciting episode, as always. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And today I am joined by Drew. Drew, why don't you give us the 30 seconds of who you are and why we care?
Well, I'm pleased to be here, and I'm very excited about the opportunity to chat with you and your audience. I've been in cybersecurity for almost 30 years now, and have been through so many evolutions of risk, of exposure, of what we worried about, of how we dealt with that. And I've been part of the struggles. I've endured those struggles. I've caused some of those struggles, and hopefully through my experience, including 20 years as a CISO or deputy CISO at Fortune 100 and multibillion-dollar multinationals, all those things that make me sound more credible. But at the end of the day, I hope that what I have to share stands on its own and gives some people a different way of thinking and approaching problems that maybe help them solve them differently.
Yeah, I love that. And as somebody who's been a CISO and a field CISO and I spent most of my career helping CISOs. I've talked to a lot of people, and it's very different being the CISO of a Fortune 50, Fortune 100 company than it is being the CISO of a mid-market business or a smaller business, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Very, very different. So can absolutely appreciate that. So I love the topic that you suggested here. So I'm just going to open with the topic and tell me what you mean. I think I know, but I think it'll be fun. Is stop caring about cyber so much.
Yeah, I know. It sounds it's one of these LinkedIn hand grenade headlines, but it's
All
also
about the hook.
super important. It's super important because our profession is really blessed, I would say, with very passionate people who are mission focused and just every day think about how can I protect the company or the organization that I support, and that becomes almost an unhealthy obsession. And when you get so close to a problem, you begin to lack perspective and objectivity. And when you begin to lack objectivity and perspective, you lose your empathy. And I see this more and more in the professionals that I encounter. We hear things like, "Oh, I'm the adult in the room," or "Cyber people are the smartest people in the room." You hear it in little ways, like we understand the risk that they don't. They refuse to learn about our problem, right? It's all very us, me, and I think that any strength becomes a weakness if it's overused, and for us, that passion has become a weakness, not a strength. And I think the guidance that we hear a lot from people put cybersecurity in business terms. We thought the answer to that challenge was dollars and cents, but really it's common
More
sense.
than that. Yeah.
It's more than that. Yeah, it's not business language, it's business context. And where does cyber sit in the grand scheme of all the problems that a business has organized itself to solve? And when we're so close to one problem, we fail to be able to see all the other problems.
I love that. Mostly because that's one of the key topics I talk about all the time, is that translation of tech to business. And yes, there's a dollars and cents of it, but I'm just like you said, we are way too full of ourselves in cybersecurity, and it's always, why do I have to dumb it down for them? Can't they And I'm like, no, you work for them. Your job is, the analogy I always use, it's the business is a race car and you're the brakes. Super important, but you you're not everything. The goal is to win the race, not to
Yeah.
spend all your money on brakes.
Well, that's right. Earlier in my career, my first time as a CISO, one of my senior leaders came to me and he said, like, why is it always our fault? He was really irritated. He's like, it's always our fault. And what he was saying to me was, you don't back me up. You're not standing up for me. What I was doing was holding him accountable. And he didn't like it. But I said to him, if your message flops, you can do two things. You can blame the audience and say they're not smart enough to know and understand what I just shared with them, which is what you were doing. Or you can say it's really important that they understand what I'm trying to convey and it isn't working the way that I'm doing it. And that's back to the empathy. If you don't put yourself in the shoes of the audience and say, how can I make it so that they understand this? And instead you blame them because they're not smart enough, then you know what? You might feel great, but you're a failure, and you're going to continue to fail. And one might argue that's where our industry currently is.
Yeah, there's definitely a huge disconnect in there. And again, funny because I literally just posted today. I watched this YouTube video of Steven Pinker. He's a Harvard linguist and communication specialist, and he talks about, like, even in his world, there are these people who are in this niche, and they spend all their time with 5 or 6 people, and then they go out and talk to somebody else, and they're using things that other people don't understand, and they don't have that empathy, they don't have the perspective. And I've talked to, like, I've even, like, doing, when I do like career counseling sessions for presentations, I'm like, look, if you're in vulnerability management all day, even going and talking to the GRC person or the pen tester, they may not even understand some of the things you say because you're such in your funnel.
Right.
And you have to step away from that and take a look and be like, how does this fit together? And I think the idea of understanding you're part of a business is really the way to do it. You need to understand you have a role to play. And like you said, if you're failing at that, well, then that means you're not doing your job, and it's not somebody else's fault. It's yours.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, 10 years ago, we would have been relegated to the broom closet. And in some ways may still be so at many companies, and that broom closet might be nested deep in IT. It's like, okay, you talk weird technology stuff. We're told we have to have you. Uh, go play with those people.
Go to the basement.
You're never going to get relevance. You're not going to get invited to the important conversations, and then you're going to wonder why security is always an add-on, or why security always has to find out about these things after the fact. Well, it's because they don't want you to know about them in the first place because you haven't demonstrated that you can be a trusted hand on the rudder. And so, again, it's for your own good to be able to have that context, to understand where you sit in the grand scheme of risk. And these days companies are struggling to grow their revenue. A great example, Will, is kind of the SOC 2. I don't know about your LinkedIn, but apparently LinkedIn wants me to know that everyone hates SOC 2 right now. But in
Well,
the
and there are
context of what,
companies,
yeah, like
supposedly rubber stamping things, which we've all
rubber
known
stamping,
for
sure, but
decades.
but it does what it does in that it speeds up the business. It reduces friction in the sales process. It helps customers build trust with a company they don't know anything about. And those two things are really valuable. And so we could say from a security perspective, hey, there's better. It could be a more effective artifact. But from a business perspective, it's doing its job, and it's doing its job pretty well. And so, do you want to attack something that's working, even if it's not perfect? We're making perfect the enemy of good, and that's never a good place to be.
That's pretty profound to me because it's something I struggled with a lot earlier in my career, which was, I know how to do this, and I know I know the perfect right way to do it, and it's going to take me forever to get it done. And actually working with salespeople fixed that because they were like, no, just spend this much time, copy paste this. This is good enough to get it done, right? This will get the deal across. This will make the person happy. This will, figure out what it is that needs to get done and get it done, right?
Right.
Now, you shouldn't necessarily take that approach with security all the time because you do want it to be effective, but at the same time, we all have to pick our battles in where we're going to spend time and effort. And every business does, or every business unit does that too. And I think because we're in security, so technically ingrained and special with the knowledge we have, and we just assume HR works and doesn't have that problem, and finance people don't have that problem, but they absolutely do too, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has
Yeah.
trade-offs.
Yeah, and I don't remember it was Freakonomics or one of these interesting books, but it kind of opened my eyes to this in a different context. Is like, okay, when a real estate agent lists their house versus when a real estate agent lists your house, how quickly do they sell?
Mm,
And so, when they're listing your house, they sell it pretty quick. They tell you that this is the best deal you're going to get because there's money on the line. When they're listing their own house, it takes a little longer to sell because they hold out for what they know to be the best deal. And that's kind of where people are. Business wants these things to be done fast and good enough, not perfect. But we're the people selling our own house. And we're like, it can be better. It can be better.
yes.
And they're like, I don't care if it's better. I want it done.
Well, and anybody could. I mean, I don't know. It's not the analogy. The sort of uh, the point I try to make all the time when I talk about like programs is there's not a single company on this planet, nobody whose job is to go to work every day and be secure. That's it.
Right.
Every company has a revenue target, serve some constituents, achieve whatever. Nobody's goal is to be the most secure company in the planet and spend all of our money being secure. Like that.
Right.
And you have to understand and be good with that.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Imagine if there were. It's sort of people just sat in a tornado shelter all day. That's what I do. I'm very secure.
I mean, it would be actually, if you were to do it right, it would be very inexpensive because you would just not be connected to the internet.
Yeah.
You would have no electronics
Secure
and
but
lock your
useless.
doors. Yeah. You just use paper and pen. Like that's so what are some of your either guiding principles, things you've learned over your course of especially working for larger companies, and that CISO role is very different. I mean, having worked with all the different diversities, there's always a conversation we have around like different CISO archetypes, right? And I don't believe in the larger firms, you don't really have the technical CISOs because you have to be a business-minded CISO because you're presenting to the board. You've got budget review. I mean, you have to be able to speak the language of business. But further down, then you have those people who were, they just were the best technical person and now they're in charge. So just kind of thinking of that dichotomy and like the different things that, how do you balance I care about cyber, but I care about the business also?
Yeah. Well, it starts by getting out of your own bubble. You talked about those 6 people who never talk to each other, but too often cyber leaders are that way. I'm naturally very introverted, and it's not easy for me to go out and talk to people. I don't like to talk about myself a lot, although maybe people might dispute that. Uh, but I found that many of these other business leaders are different than I am. So I don't want to view the world through, hey, everyone's a lot like me. I don't want to think I'm, some sort of butterfly either, but I recognize that there are very outgoing and gregarious people who really like to talk about themselves. But even more than that, everybody likes to talk about what they do, their passions and their hobbies. And many people have gravitated to that in their careers, as kind of we talked about at the onset. So I'm happy to talk about cyber all day long. We're at a good point. 20 years ago, people didn't care a lot about cyber, but these days, people are kind of interested in it. If you can tell them stories about it, not the nuanced detail. And so you got to have a pocket of stories that you can carry with you that are applicable and relevant. So you're almost like one of these Saturday morning cartoons from when we were kids, and it's like the moral of the
PSAs.
story is, and so you got to have these. But they got to be vignettes. No more than a minute or two. Kind of a parable or a fable that they can use to connect what you're trying to pitch to their world. But bring people to lunch, pay for their lunch. I had a boss. He's like, I take someone to lunch every day, and sometimes it's a stranger. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
it's somebody without a strong relationship. Um, but he allocated time and money to do that. Offer to help people. Don't go to people immediately with, here's what I need you to do for me. And that's so often what we come across
Mhm.
as, whether we realize it or not. When I bring you a security challenge and ask you to do something different, I'm saying you now work for me. And That's not how relationships get built. We have to approach people with, I'm here to work with and for you. I want to talk about your business. I want to understand your problems. I want to bring you solutions. I want to deliver those with excellence, by the way. I want to make sure that what I'm promising, I'm writing a check that can be cashed. But I've never thought that if somebody walked up to your house and said, "Hey, let me help you wash your car," you're going to turn them away. That's what we got to be. We got to be that servant mindset that says, I'm here to help you be successful, and by doing so, we'll all be more successful. And you got to put the wood behind that arrow.
I really dig that, because it's like, as you're telling that story, I'm thinking, first off, I tell everybody from when you're talking to non-technical people, whether it's the board or just, getting buy-in from your coworkers or just talking to your friends about what you do, you have to have a story to tell, right? If you tell the story, if you have a solid example that makes sense, they will get it. But the idea of engaging with other people, again, as somebody who's, maybe this will buy me some clout, whoever's listening, but as somebody who I got asked in an interview the other day, like, why aren't you a CISO? Why are you in the consulting world? And I was like, well, honestly, I have more fun and enjoy helping CISOs more than I do being one, because going to work every day and running that program, like, that's not as exciting to me. But sitting down in that case where you just said, hey, Will, I've got this problem. How have you seen it solved? Where else is this happening? And I get it. CISO, CI, like, whatever, you're in the C-suite, you're targeted by people who are trying to pitch slap you and sell you stuff all the time. But there are those of us out there who do actually want to help you and understand what's going on. I know when I talk to somebody, it's usually I'm asking questions about the business. I'm not really asking questions about the cybersecurity program usually, unless that, but like, to me, it's more fun to have that. And you're living in I say whoever that CISO is or CIO, whatever it is, they're living in their world every day. And sometimes getting that external viewpoint, getting out of your echo chamber,
rattle the cage a little bit.
Yeah.
It's something I talk a lot about, assumptions. I keep a list of assumptions in front of me at my desk when I have a desk. I'm not at my desk right now. I'm in my masterpiece theater chair. But because those assumptions shape your worldview, and that worldview shapes your behavior. And so little things like, oh, we're in a cost constrained environment, I can't get budget. That changes how you behave until you reflect and say, that's no longer true. I can't hire people. Well, I'm held hostage to the people that I have then, and if I can't develop someone, I just have to live with it. And you see teams crumble because of things like this. Like, you don't go fight for new budget, you don't go fight for more resources, or this leader isn't interested in cyber and they don't want to have a conversation with me. Well, maybe they will be next time. Maybe you change your story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to have these. You got to constantly challenge your own assumptions. Get out of your own personal echo chamber, your professional echo chamber, and if you do that successfully, then I think it really opens up a lot of doors, professionally and otherwise.
I'm gonna take what you said and give some even more directed advice, because a light bulb went on when you said, that person doesn't care about cyber. Well, maybe they will next time, or maybe it's because you didn't frame it right. Right. And there's tons of books on how to communicate and stuff. But basically, I think if you're a cyber leader or aspiring cyber leader, or you're in that, regardless, you're in that situation, do some research and learn about cold calling and sales tactics, right?
Yeah.
Learn
every
about
one of us
how
should
to
read Daniel Pink's, how to talk to somebody. Everyone's in sales type book.
Yeah. Or even, I say Josh Braun all the time. Anybody who's ever been on, like, you can just read his feeds for a day and you'll get smarter on it. But it's like, okay, they weren't interested in cyber because did you come to them and say, hey, we need to do this because I said so? Or did you ask them about a problem that maybe they have that's related? Did you frame the question right? Did you not lead them to the answer you wanted, but rather highlight the problem they didn't know exists? And I think that is something that, because like you said, I think most of, obviously I'm a big extrovert, but most of us are big introverts, but also most of us are very, very smart and very direct, right? Yeah. We don't have a lot of time for the softer skills. I've had plenty of conversations with a client who says, well, I need to talk to your such and such engineer to make sure. I was like, okay, I'm going to bring him up from the basement
That's right.
Right? Like, here, Mr. Pre-sales guy talking to
Don't mind the
you. He's going to tell you your baby's ugly.
Yeah.
But you can ask him all the questions you want.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, I mean, too often it comes across very manipulative. Like when you're leading someone to your solution, they know
Mhm.
they're being led by the nose. They know they're going down the garden path. But if you are really empathetic and trying to understand them, they know that too, and
Mhm.
they'll behave. So, like, if people are turned off by you, even if like if you're taking that first step of trying to use a different approach, make sure it's not coming off as manipulative. Make sure you're not just, well, I've got this end in mind. I'm going to find a slicker way to get them there. Um, but really think about, is that the right end? Is that the right end
Mhm.
at this time? Is there a step I can take that'll help me get there, but not necessarily reach there yet? But that's good enough.
And even so, and this is something I do with like startups I talk to is, what's the business problem you're solving? So from a security perspective, whatever role you've got and thing you want to get done that you're being told no, well, okay, what's the business problem? And then go just ask them about that problem, the
Yeah, is this something you
processes, the
care
people
about?
involved. Yeah.
And be ready if they say not right now, or yes, we do, but we care about these other 5 things a little bit more. you
Right.
know that's okay, that's good. And so now I know I'm on the backlog, and I can still work, right? There's still plenty for me to do, and there's things we can do to chip away at problems. You got to have that kind of perspective. You're right.
Yeah. I think that's way better than escalating it to whoever and try like the draconian approach to it all and those kinds of things.
Yeah,
So
yeah, the
yeah,
Cartman
this was
approach.
amazing, Drew. Where can people find you on the interwebs if they want to?
Oh, I hang out on LinkedIn, and I don't know what I'm doing there most of the time. I like to comment and try to think about things differently. But that's about it. I don't do much else on the socials. And so LinkedIn is the place to find me.
Outstanding. Well, thanks for your time, man. I really appreciate it. This was a great time.
I've enjoyed the conversation as well. Thank you so much.
See you later. Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. Follow Wil and the podcast on LinkedIn/Wil Klu. Visit Wil Klu ME for information on services he offers to help your cyber or tech business grow. Until next time, Sinaculator.